Well, friends, I'm coming at you with some probably not very surprising news. Just wanted to get it out there. The Hollywood Reporter is reporting, because apparently that's what they do, reporting on Hollywood, that the Frasier revival, thankfully, these people have finally gotten it through their heads that it's a revival and not a reboot. However, the Frasier revival is done at Paramount Plus after 2 seasons. CBS Studios, which produces the series, says it will try to find a new home for the show. Frankly, I think that's fairly unlikely, but let's see if they have any further information on this. Frasier Crane will once again be looking for a new home. Paramount says it won't go ahead with a third season of Frasier, the revival of the must-see TV-era NBC comedy starring Kelsey Grammer. The news comes 2 months after the show's second season. Did they say anything else here? We'll look for a new home, and then it tells about what the show is. The first rumblings of the revival. This is just a lot of retrospect. The first season was about finding the character. Showrunner, the 2 seasons of Frasier, as well as the original series, will remain on Paramount Plus. And frankly, that's about it. So Frasier's been canceled by Paramount Plus. They're looking for a new home. I frankly don't feel very hopeful that it will find one, but that's where we are right now. So now I guess I can editorialize a little bit. I covered the first season of this revival, and while it wasn't my favorite thing ever, it never even rose to the midpoint of the original run of Frasier, which is one of my favorite shows of, that era of sitcom history. It was just such a classic show, I guess. I did enjoy seeing the character back. I enjoyed some of the new characters, particularly his son, Freddie, was pretty well done. And Alan was probably the standout breakout star. Olivia, pretty good as well, but David was probably the weak link. However, I did say that while watching the first season, it did kind of feel like they were trying to get their feet under them, trying to figure out the character dynamics, trying to decide who was going to mesh well with who. And by the end of the first season, it did feel like they were finally starting to maybe hit their stride. They also had a bunch of side characters at the fire department and a couple of other side characters at the job Frasier worked at Harvard, all of those things. However, one of my fears for season 2 was they were going to blow that all up, because season 2 was chock full of returning characters. People like Alice, Roz's daughter, was being played by Kelsey Grammer's actual daughter. We brought back BB for an episode, which I actually liked that episode, even though it was way over the top, incredibly cartoonish to the point of feeling basically like a cartoon and not like a legitimate realistic show. That was probably one of the better episodes. I also liked the mystery episode. What was it? The episode in season 2 where they did like the dinner party and everything went wrong. That felt like a ghost of something that would happen in the original Frasier. But I have to say, the one I was looking forward to the most, the return to Seattle, the return to KACL, in my opinion, it felt a little bit too mean-spirited and a little bit too much like they were just trying to bury the original show and say, look at us, we've moved on. But the point I was trying to make before I got sidetracked here, they were introducing and reintroducing so many extra returning or new characters in season 2. I was fearful they were going to push out the barely burgeoned original characters of the new show. The relationships that had just been tenuously built between these characters were going to be interrupted and kind of just frozen in their tracks by the returning characters. There was still a lot of good character exploration, particularly with the characters who worked. There was a lot more Roz injected into the season, but it just felt like they were doing too much too soon, as well as too little too late. And while I found the first season of this Frasier revival to have a hopeful feeling towards what the show could grow to become, the second season, I felt like it wasn't worth it. I stopped covering it. I had a lot of fun covering the first season, even when it had a lot of stumbles. It just felt like it was intriguing and it could get better. But the second season, I watched it all right off the bat. It didn't hit me. I never felt anything in my soul for watching it. It was just kind of there. And I think that's partially the problem. None of it felt like there was anything really special going on here. Nothing made it stand out from the pack, aside from the fact of the curiosity of picking up with a lot of the characters we fell in love with back in the day, to see where they are now and what's become of them. But none of it really felt organic enough to carry the storyline. It was just a lot of stuff on the screen episode to episode. There were a few exceptions to that. There were a few really heartfelt moments, again, particularly the Frasier Freddie relationship, I guess you could call it. The early on stuff where their relationship over Martin's death, that hit home a little bit. Towards the end of the second season, Alan's relationship with his daughter, that hit home a little bit, but none of the rest of it ever just really struck me in the heart the way that the original show did. Now, it's not really fair to compare this to the original show. At a certain point, you do kind of need to judge it on its own merits, and its own merits really fell flat, I have to say, at the end of the day. Nothing about it felt too unique and too different from just a new show that they threw on TV with new characters. It was just with the coat of paint of some familiar characters and actors. I don't want to take anything away from the actors in this series. Most of them did a pretty good job with their role. There just wasn't enough there to really keep me coming back and feeling like it's a must-see TV show like they touted the original was. Those are my rambly thoughts. I just wanted to get this news out there because I covered the revival from the beginning. I fell off in season 2. I was hopeful they were going to find their groove. That's another problem we have with the current landscape of TV shows, though. The 2 seasons of this revival of Frasier don't really even add up to a single season of the sitcom landscape back in the day. It hasn't really been given the chance to grow into something. Now, the original Frasier, first season, some great episodes. But it does take shows a lot of time to find their feet. 2 seasons adding up to less than a 1 season in the original show. That means there's a break in the middle. There's a break in that chemistry. There's a break in the organic growth of these characters, introducing the new people. It really just felt like they were shooting themselves in the feet to organically grow into something in the way that the new landscape works. That's how streaming works. That's why we get so many shows that come and go. They're not given a chance to become something better than what they initially are at the outset. Look at a lot of the old shows. If they're canceled after the first season, the second season, nobody would give them a second thought because it took them a long time to really get in their groove. And apparently Coles wants to get my video demonetized, but those are the crosses that we bear. What did you think of the new Frasier? Do you think it's going to find a new home? Or do you feel like this was the inevitable fate that was always looming for the show because of just what the new Frasier was? By the way, apparently we're still getting that Cheers reboot, which has no connection to this Frasier thing at all. So maybe that has some sort of link into why they're getting rid of Frasier. I don't know. If you liked the show, tell me that. If you hated it, tell me that too. Whatever you thought of the new Frasier, whatever you think is going to happen to it next, if anything at all, like, share, subscribe, do all those YouTube things, join. But until next time, I'm listening.